So most survivors of childhood trauma blame themselves for what happened to them. This is a super common thing. I've experienced it myself, and I see it all the time with my clients and students. We will grow up feeling like we were at fault for what happened, that what happened to us in childhood, whether it was abuse, neglect, or a combination of the two, was because there was something wrong with us. And I want to clarify that this is not the case at all. In fact, I could say that it is never the case, that it was absolutely, definitively not your fault in any way what happened to you as a child. Now, from a child's perspective, however, the child is sort of the center of the universe, right? And does not have the ability to look at their caregivers and say it's their fault. It's their thinking and their way of living that is the problem. It's not me, right? Children don't have the ability, the cognitive ability to do that. And quite frequently, we don't have that ability until well into adulthood. Instead, of course, we look to our caregivers for absolutely everything. Our survival depends upon them. And in a sense, they are like God to us, right? Our survival depends upon them. We desperately need their love, validation, and approval and attention just in order to survive, never mind thrive. So when our parents are emotionally unavailable or in some other way absent and not giving us the nurturing and love and care that we need, we don't blame them. Instead, we blame ourselves and say, I'm not getting these needs met because there's something wrong with me. Now, of course, this is not conscious thinking, right? We don't have the ability to reason and really think these things out as young children, but this is automatically how things land for us. And of course, this instills great fear in a young one when our cries go unheard, our needs go unmet. There is a deep, deep feeling of terror that arises within our bodies and a feeling of alienation and aloneness that arises. And with that, if we don't receive adequate mirroring, which is, our parents picking us up and smiling at us and talking to us as we babble and things like that, and if they are essentially kind of vacant emotionally or not connecting with us, then what also happens is this deep sense of toxic shame is embedded in our psyches as well. Now, this kind of toxic shame is at the root of childhood trauma and complex PTSD. And that toxic shame says, I am bad, that all of these things happen to me because of my badness. And when I say badness, I mean it is like a feeling of disgust and of rottenness, and like rottenness to the core of who we are. That is the felt sense somatically that we carry around in our viscera, and it gets carried in every other way in our being, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and energetically. So, and these patterns are set up from really, really young. This is the core of who we believe ourselves to be if, in fact, we were neglected or abused or both as young children. This is particularly in really sometimes pre-verbal years, early childhood development and trauma. So this sort of sets us up with this feeling of wrongness, badness, rottenness as a core sense of who we are in the world. And we carry this sense of toxic shame and badness into our lives. And this felt sense in our bodies, again, it manifests somatically in our bodies through really, really challenging sensations physically. It manifests emotionally as a type of, again, fear, disgust, self-loathing, self-hatred, self-blame, and even self-punishment and self-sabotage. Because we deeply, deeply believe there is something wrong with me, right? And so then we carry that into everything that we do in our lives, into every relationship, into every situation, this core sense of wrongness. And so those deep wounds from complex trauma especially get triggered in interpersonal dynamics. So within relationship, because these wounds were created in relationship with our caregivers or parents. So in relationship going forward in life is where those wounds will get triggered again and again and again. And this is especially painful. It is a really, really, really painful way to live. And so, of course, the path of healing from complex trauma, childhood neglect, and abuse is a long and sometimes arduous one. And it includes somatic healing and cognitive healing. It's sort of a two-pronged approach, right? Both bottom up approach and top down approach. It's not one thing. But one of the things that does have to happen is that we start to come to this realization at some point in our journey that, wait a minute, I was an innocent child. I was a baby even, right? And no baby is born bad. That's just not something that happens. And we become able to really identify the fact that, oh, wait, hang on a second. I think my caregivers were the ones with the problem. And it was them, not me. And in addition to that cognitive sort of unraveling and the grieving process that goes along with realizing that our parents weren't who we thought they were, that they in fact were not available for us, that we never did receive what we really deserved and needed to receive, and that actually set the stage for who we believed ourselves to be in life, right? There's a lot of grief that goes all around that we, do need to feel and process through those emotions and through that grief and sort of come to terms with it in our path of healing. And then in terms of the bottom up, more somatic approach, we also have to be able to move through those really, really challenging, really painful, uncomfortable physical sensations that go along with those feelings of disgust and badness and wrongness. So it's both things so that we can come into this place of, wait, it wasn't me. It was actually them. And perhaps we even get to the point at some point where we see that they too were flawed human beings who didn't receive adequate care, because that's usually how it goes. We can only give what we have received and pass that on. So this is intergenerational trauma, right? It gets passed down generation to generation. But that's not an excuse, right? It's not an excuse for our caregivers not giving us adequate love and care. There is no excuse for that. In fact, not receiving the love and care and nurturing that you deserved as a child, just as a human being, is absolutely something that it takes time to come to terms with, right? And that's part of the, as I said, especially with complex PTSD, it can take a long time to unravel from these things. The bottom line is this idea and this real felt sense coming along finally to this real belief, real place of rootedness in terms of identity when we're creating a new identity and new way of relating to ourselves that says, it wasn't me. I was not at fault. I was innocent. And I never was bad. In fact, I was worthy of love. I was worthy of care, and I still am. And that starts to build a new sense of who we are in the world. And that is really the foundation from which we start to really rebuild our lives from this place of wholeness, from this place of deservingness. So you were never at fault. There is nothing that you did or did not do to deserve what happened to you. Sometimes bad things just happen. And bad things happen to people who deserve good things because honestly, we all deserve good things. We all deserve love and care. And so I hope that this can give you a little bit of hope and a little bit of direction in terms of moving forward in your relationship and starting to move out of those feelings of shame and badness. You are worthy of love. So if this has been helpful to you, please do hit the like button, perhaps pass it on to someone that you feel like might benefit. And if you're liking my content, please do subscribe, and I will see you again soon.